Hello, this is the last video I'm going to make about the US election, I promise. Obviously, only a few days to go now. Now, there'll be no fancy editing on this video. My editing software is down at the moment, so this is going straight onto my phone. So I'm just going to carry on if I make a mistake, so that may happen. Now, last time, 2016, I put a bet on Donald Trump winning the election. I didn't win much, but I mean, it was some small consolation, I suppose. But as I was collecting my winnings, I said I'd happily give the money back for the other result. Unfortunately, obviously, I couldn't do that. This time, I'm not going to bet on it this time. I shouldn't really gamble anyway as a recovering addict. But I am fairly confident in a Biden win. Electoral college numbers, I'm just going to say 339 to 199 to Trump. Now, Biden winning does not necessarily mean it's going to be smooth sailing, because as any sane person knows, Donald Trump is going to call this a rigged election. He's going to say it's all a hoax. He's going to say the deep state was involved, all of this nonsense. There's no proof of whatsoever, but he's going to say all of it. You know he is. Not only that, I predict, and I hate to do this, make such a grim prediction, but I believe on election day, on Tuesday, there will be some kind of shooting incident at or near a polling station. And that's a horrible thing to predict, to make any kind of prediction about, but I see it as inevitable given the current frenzy of right-wing violence that is happening and how Trump has been stoking people on his side and prepping them for this kind of thing and for the election to go the other way, because a lot of these people on the right, they live in a separate media ecosystem. They've got Fox News telling them all the time that Trump's brilliant and all is going well, so for them, it will be very hard to accept a Trump loss. And I don't want people to think I'm getting ahead of myself, but all the polling is currently bad for Trump. All the key demographics, all the swing states, it's all looking bad for him. And the voter turnout is looking like it will be the highest for a century. So that is bad for Republicans. The more people vote, the more democracy happens, the worse Republicans do, because they appeal increasingly to a very narrow base. It's mostly white, mostly very, very right-wing, religious, and that is an increasing minority in the US. The US is becoming more diverse, so the more people come out from that diverse group, those people vote Democrat overwhelmingly. So it's looking bad. Huge voter turnout among the young as well, which is excellent. They didn't come out for Hillary Clinton, and I don't blame them, but this time round it looks like massive voting. 10 times as many people voting in certain age groups as they did in 2016. So that's excellent. I've made some notes here, but what I would say is that it does boggle my mind that anyone at this point could vote for a man who called 2 weeks ago for Joe Biden to be arrested. This is his political opponent, and he's calling for him to be arrested. I mean, that is what happens in fascist states. That's what Hitler did, the night of the long knives. He went round and he had his political opponents in the SA, the Sturmabteilung. He had them all rounded up and shot. As just get rid of your opposition anywhere you can, violence included. And that's what the president's calling for. And luckily, his Attorney General, Bill Barr, who has been hideous and a complete lackey, he draws the line at just rounding up political opponents. He didn't quite go over the fascist line, but he's done everything else for Trump. And then Trump had a go at him, saying, I think Bill Barr's doing a bad job because he won't arrest my opponent 2 weeks before the election on nonsense charges, completely made up stuff. So it's incredible, really. And recently, this CBS interview he did with Lesley Stahl, who's a long-time broadcaster in the US, a very respected broadcaster who hosts CBS's 60 Minutes show. She asked Trump some tough questions, and he walked out of the interview because it was obviously too tough for this, alpha male. And and since then, she has now got to have security guards outside her house because she's had death threats. She's a 78-year-old woman who now has to have close protection bodyguards because of Trump's right-wing lunatic nutter armed fans who are, given death threats against her. I mean, how you could still vote for a man who incites that kind of violence in his supporters is just beyond me. I mean, there was a plot a few weeks ago, thankfully foiled by the FBI, to kidnap the Michigan governor, Gretchen Whitmer, and thankfully, it was foiled, but Trump at a rally a week later was getting his fans to chant "lock her up" about a woman who was almost captured and locked up and killed. That was their plan for this woman, for the governor. And he's there whipping up the crowd again, telling them to lock her up, lock her up, lock them all up, he said, lock them all up. If you don't realise this man is a fascist, I don't know what's wrong with you. I really don't. Joe Biden wouldn't have been my ideal candidate. I was a Bernie Sanders fan. But it's the choice you've got. You've got fascism with Trump or democracy with Biden. It's as stark as that. And I trust America is going to do the right thing. But my God, how close they have come to authoritarian rule. It's really scary. You know, Bernie Sanders, they maligned him for being, radical, for calling for universal health care. You know, Bernie Sanders, this radical communist tree hugger, for suggesting people should get health care during a pandemic. Crazy guy. But yeah, that's where America is right now. And but I trust on Tuesday America will make the right decision. It's going to be a rough few months because Biden won't get sworn in until January. But I do trust there'll be good news on Tuesday after this rough year. So yeah, if you're feeling not too great about things at the moment, it's understandable. My mental health has not been too great recently, what with current events and incessant rain and COVID and all this shit. But I predict 2021 is going to be better than 2020, and I don't think that's a crazy bet to make considering the year we've had so far. So anyway, stay well, everyone. If you can, get out, get some exercise. Don't watch the news as much as I do. Meditate, do some yoga. The stuff works. It really works. Yeah, just be well as you can be, everyone, and take care.